Welcome students for the third class of the company law. Here the BBA students will be attending this subject as company law, whereas the BCom students will be attending this subject as Indian corporate law. So in the last class I had told about the 13 salient features, the main characteristics features of a joint stock company that you should always bear in mind. I have given enough explanation, but in spite of that, I would like to recall those 13 points, what you should ought to remember while writing the examination. The first one is the voluntary association. That means nobody is forced, nobody is pressurized to become the member of the company. With his own interest, he is supposed to become the member of the company. The second one is the incorporated association. That means every company has to be registered. Unless registration, the company cannot function. And the third one is the specific object. Specific object in the sense, I told you for what purpose, for what business the company has been registered, company has been established. This also should be known in the while the company started. Coming to the fourth one is that the company is an artificial person created by law. That means the company, once it is getting registered, in the eyes of law, it is considered as an artificial person. It can do all kinds of business, uh, anything like buying the property, opening the bank accounts, and so many functions the company can do. And the fifth point is that even though it is artificial person created by law, it is not a citizen. It is not a citizen. That means it has no right to vote, because Indian Citizenship Act as well as our constitution will bar company becoming as a like a citizen and having voting power. So these are the 5 points when I told. Coming to the sixth point, the company will have a separate legal existence. It is a separate legal entity. I told you about the Solomon versus Solomon case law also. When he was a secured creditor, he was actually the courts, the House of Lords told that the persons who are actually investors who are investing into the company and the company are a separate legal entity. So company has got a separate legal existence in the eyes of law. And also the company can hold a separate property. That is the seventh point in the main characteristic features of the company. I am talking about the main characteristic features of the company. So the company has got can possess its own separate property. Coming to the eighth point, it is about the perpetual succession. That means continuous existence. Men may come and go, but I will remain forever. You can recall, because whoever may have started the company, but the company, even though those people who have started the company may not be living today, the company continues to exist. For that purpose, I told you of the examples of the Tata, Birla, Reliance, and so many other companies. So this is the eighth point. Coming to the ninth point, it's about the common seal. As the company cannot sign, it's usually signed by the it is been represented by a common seal. So for every company, common seal is a mandatory provision. And the 10th very important point is that the companies in their memorandum of association they're supposed to write about their liability. If at all the loss occurs, what is the extent of loss they're going to take. If at all the company has invested more than 10 lakh rupees, and if at all in the liability clause, if they have written that they are ready to bear the loss only to the extent of 1 lakh rupees, then the creditors cannot claim more than lakh of rupees. Even if the credit have been advanced more than 10 lakh rupees also, even then the responsibility of the company members will be to pay only 1 lakh rupees. That's a limited liability. That is the very interesting aspect of the company. Coming to the 11th point is the free transferability of shares. So the ownership, like the investors can easily transfer the shares in the stock market and so many things, whereas in the partnership and proprietorship firms it is not possible. That is the 11th point. The 12th point is the large membership. Then because the company will have many number of investors in the form of shares, large number of people will be investing in the company. That's the 12th one. And the last one is, and it's not the least, the 13th point is that separation of ownership from the management. In the sense, here the investors will be shareholders, members of the company, whereas the management is entirely different. So these are the 13 points you are supposed to bear in mind in the point of view of the examination. That's what actually I have to add. That's the reason I recalled you. Once again, you can jot down the notes also. ಕನ್ನಡದ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳಿಗಾಗಿ ನಾನು ಇಷ್ಟು ಹೇಳ ಬಯಸೋದು 13 ಮುಖ್ಯ ಅಂಶಗಳನ್ನ ತಾವುಗಳು ನೆನಪಿಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕು. ಮುಖ್ಯ ಲಕ್ಷಣಗಳು, ಕಂಪನಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ಲಕ್ಷಣಗಳು ಬೇಕಾಗ್ತದೆ. ಆ ಮುಖ್ಯ ಲಕ್ಷಣಗಳು ಯಾವುವು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ, ಲಕ್ಷಣಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಮೊದಲನೇದಾಗಿ ಹೇಳೋದಾದರೆ ಸ್ವಇಚ್ಛೆಯಿಂದ ಕೂಡಿಕೊಳ್ಳುವಂಥದ್ದು. ಸ್ವಇಚ್ಛೆಯಿಂದ ಕೂಡಿಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು, ಯಾರೇ ಒತ್ತಡ ಅಥವಾ ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು ಇದು ಫೋರ್ಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲದೇ ಕೂಡಿಕೊಳ್ಳುವಂಥದ್ದು. ಮತ್ತು ಎರಡನೇ ಪಾಯಿಂಟು ನೋಂದಾವಣೆಗೊಳ್ಳುವಂಥದ್ದು. ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು ಕಂಪನಿ ನೋಂದಾವಣೆಗೊಳ್ಬೇಕು, ಅದು ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು ಅಂತಿದ್ರೆ, ಅದು ಕೆಲಸಗಳನ್ನ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದರೆ ನೋಂದಾವಣೆಗೊಳ್ಬೇಕು. ಮೊದಲನೇದು ಅದು ಸ್ವಇಚ್ಛೆಯಿಂದ ಕೂಡಿಕೊಳ್ಳುವಂಥದ್ದು, ಎರಡನೇದು ನೋಂದಾವಣೆಗೊಳ್ಳುವಂಥದ್ದು, ಮೂರನೇದು ಅದು ಕೃತಕ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿ, ಕಾನೂನು ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಕೃತಕ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿ, ಎಲ್ಲ ದೃಷ್ಟಿಯಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಅದನ್ನು ಕೃತಕ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿ ಅಂತ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಜೀವ ಒಂದು ಇಲ್ಲ ಬಿಟ್ಟರೆ ಮತ್ತು ಎಲ್ಲ ವ್ಯವಹಾರಗಳನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಅದು ಕೃತಕ ಒಂದು ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಯ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲೇ ಅದು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಬ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಓಪನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ಮತ್ತು ತನ್ನ ದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ಆಸ್ತಿಗಳನ್ನು ಪರ್ಚೇಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ಎಲ್ಲವನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಹಾಗೆಯೇ ಕಂಪನಿಗೆ 4ನೇ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಏನಂತಂದರೆ ಒಂದು ನಿರ್ದಿಷ್ಟ ಉದ್ದೇಶ ಇರಬೇಕು. ಅದು ಲಿಖಿತ ಮನವಿಗಳ ಪತ್ರ ಅಂತೇಳಿ ಇರ್ತದೆ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಂತಂದರೆ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟಿಂಗ್ನಲ್ಲೇ ಅದು ಮೆಮೊರಾಂಡಮ್ ಆಫ್ ಅಸೋಸಿಯೇಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಉದ್ದೇಶ ಏನು, ಯಾವ ಒಂದು ಉದ್ದೇಶಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಕಂಪನಿ ರಚನೆ ಆಗುವಂಥದ್ದನ್ನು ಮೊದಲೇ ತಿಳಿಸಬೇಕಾಗ್ತದೆ. ನಾನು ಹೇಳಿದೆ ಇದು ಕೃತಕ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿ, ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ಗಳು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಆದರೆ 5ನೇ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಏನಂತಂದರೆ ಅದು ಯಾವತ್ತೂ ಪ್ರಜೆ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು ದೇಶದ ಪ್ರಜೆ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಅದು ನಮ್ಮ ಸಂವಿಧಾನ ಕೂಡ ಹಾಗೇನು ಹೇಳ್ತದೆ. ಅದನಂತರ ನಮ್ಮ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರಜಾ ಕಾಯ್ದೆ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂಡ ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ಹೇಳ್ತದೆ. ಕಂಪನಿ ಯಾವತ್ತೂ ಕೂಡ ಒಂದು ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಚುನಾವಣೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಓಟ್ ಹಾಕೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲಿ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಜೆ ಇರುವಂಥ ಎಲ್ಲ ಹಕ್ಕುಗಳು ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಕಾನೂನು ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಅದೊಂದು ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿ, ಆದರೆ ಪ್ರಜೆಯಾಗಿ ಆ ಹಕ್ಕುಗಳು ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳುವಂಥದ್ದು. ಅದು 5ನೇ ಪಾಯಿಂಟು. 6ನೇ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಬರುವಂಥದ್ದು ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಎ ಸಪರೇಟ್ ಲೀಗಲ್ ಎಂಟಿಟಿ ಅಂತ ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಪ್ರತ್ಯೇಕ ಕಾನೂನಿನ ಅಸ್ತಿತ್ವ. ಅಂದರೆ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಸೋಲಮನ್ ಕೇಸ್ನ ಹೇಳಿದೆ, ಅವನೇ ಹಣ ಹಾಕಿದ್ರು ಕೂಡ ಅವನೇ ಹಣವನ್ನು ವಾಪಸ್ ತೆಗೆದುಕೊಳ್ಳಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಹೌಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಲಾರ್ಡ್ಸ್ ಅನುಮತಿಯನ್ನು ಕೊಡ್ತದೆ. ಯಾಕೆಂದರೆ ಅವನು ಸೆಕ್ಯೂರ್ಡ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಭದ್ರತೆಯ ಸಾಲ ಇರುತ್ತದೆ. ಬೇರೆಯವರು ಭದ್ರತೆ ಇಲ್ಲದಂಥ ಸಾಲ, ಅದು ಕಂಪನಿಯನ್ನು ಮುಚ್ಚುವಂಥ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಭದ್ರತೆ ಇಲ್ಲದ ಸಾಲವನ್ನು ಕೊಡದೆ, ಭದ್ರತೆ ಇರುವಂಥ ಸಾಲ ಸೋಲಮನ್ ಆಗಿದ್ರು ಕೂಡ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಕೊಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತೇಳಿ ಹೌಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಲಾರ್ಡ್ಸ್ ಹೇಳ್ತದೆ. ಹಾಗೆಯೇ 7ನೇ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಹೇಳುವಂಥದ್ದು ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಪ್ರತ್ಯೇಕ ಆಸ್ತಿಯನ್ನು ಹೊಂದಬಹುದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳುವಂಥದ್ದು. ಮತ್ತು 8ನೇ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಹೇಳುವಂಥದ್ದು ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಿರಂತರ ಅಸ್ತಿತ್ವ ಇರುವಂಥದ್ದು. ಯಾರೇ ಬರಲಿ ಯಾರೇ ಹೋಗಲಿ, ಯಾರೇ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿರಲಿ ಕಂಪನಿಯನ್ನು, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಿರಂತರ ಅಸ್ತಿತ್ವ ಇರ್ತದೆ. ಅದು ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಮುಂದುವರಿತಾನೆ ಹೋಗ್ತದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳುವಂಥದ್ದು. ಹಾಗೆಯೇ 9ನೇ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಹೇಳುವಂಥದ್ದು ಅದಕ್ಕೊಂದು ಸಾಮಾನ್ಯ ಒಂದು ಮೊಹರು ಇರಬೇಕಾಗ್ತದೆ, ಸೀಲ್ ಇರಬೇಕಾಗ್ತದೆ. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಹಿ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಬರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಒಂದು ಕಂಪನಿಯ ಕೃತಕ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿ ಆಗಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ಕಾಮನ್ ಸೀಲ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಸಾಮಾನ್ಯ ಒಂದು ಮೊಹರನ್ನು ಕಡ್ಡಾಯವಾಗಿಯೇ ಅದು ಹೊಂದಿರಬೇಕಾಗ್ತದೆ. ಆಮೇಲೆ 10ನೇ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಬಹಳ ಮುಖ್ಯವಾದ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಅದೇ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್. ಮತ್ತು ಯಾಕೆಂದರೆ ಅದು ಲಿಮಿಟೆಡ್ ಲಯಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಅಂತ ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷ್ ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ. ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಮಿತವಾದ ಹೊಣೆಗಾರಿಕೆ ಇರುವಂಥದ್ದು. ಅದು ಎಷ್ಟೇ ಬಂಡವಾಳ ಹಾಕಿರಲಿ, ಎಷ್ಟು ಹೊಣೆಗಾರಿಕೆ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದನ್ನು ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಮುಂಚೆನೇ ಹೇಳಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ಭಯದ ವಾತಾವರಣ ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು ನಷ್ಟ ಸಂಭವಿಸಿದ ಒಂದು ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳುವಂಥದ್ದು. ಹಾಗೆಯೇ 11ನೇ ಪಾಯಿಂಟು ಅದು ಸುಲಭವಾಗಿ ಅದರ ಷೇರುಗಳನ್ನು ನಾವು ಬೇರೆಯವರಿಗೆ ವರ್ಗಾವಣೆ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ಅವಕಾಶ ಈ ಕಂಪನಿಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುವಂಥದ್ದು. ಆಮೇಲೆ 12ನೇ ಪಾಯಿಂಟು ಬಹು ಸದಸ್ಯತ್ವ ಇರುವಂಥದ್ದು, ಬಹಳ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಸಂಖ್ಯೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಸದಸ್ಯತ್ವ ಇರುವಂಥದ್ದು. ಇದು ಕೂಡ ಒಂದು ಮುಖ್ಯವಾದ ಅಂಶ. ಆಮೇಲೆ 13ನೇ ಪಾಯಿಂಟು ಸಪರೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಓನರ್ಶಿಪ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಅಂತ. ಅಂದರೆ ಮಾಲೀಕತ್ವನೇ ಬೇರೆ ಮತ್ತು ನಿರ್ವಹಣೆ ಬೇರೆ. ಅಂದರೆ ಯಾರು ಹಣವನ್ನು ಹಾಕಿರ್ತಾರೆ ಅವರೇ ಅದರ ನಿರ್ವಹಣೆ ಮಾಡುವ ಅವಶ್ಯಕತೆ ಬರೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳೋದು. ಇದು 13 ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಸ್ಗಳು. ಇದನ್ನು ತಾವುಗಳು ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಓದಬೇಕು, ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಬರಿಬೇಕು. ಎಲ್ಲ ಒಂದು ಸೋಲಮನ್ ಕೇಸ್ ಲಾವನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಪ್ರತ್ಯೇಕ ಕಾನೂನಿನ ಅಸ್ತಿತ್ವದಲ್ಲಿ ಬರಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಮರಿಬಾರದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ನಾನೊಂದು ಹೇಳ್ತೇನೆ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ. ಈಗ ಇದನ್ನು ನಾನು ಜಸ್ಟ್ ನಿಮಗೆ ನೆನಪಾಗಲಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದೆ, 13 ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಗಳು. ಇದು ಬಹಳ ಒಂದು ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್, ಅದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ನಾನು ಹೇಳಿದೆ, ರಿಪೀಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದೆ. ಅದನ್ನು ನಾನು ಇವತ್ತು ಏನು ಹೇಳಬೇಕು ಅಂತಿದ್ದೇನೆ ಅಂತಂದರೆ, ಲಿಫ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಆಫ್ ಕಾರ್ಪೊರೇಟ್ ವೇಲ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಈಗ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ತೇನೆ, ಮತ್ತು ಅದನ್ನು ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೇಳ್ತೇನೆ ನಿಮಗೆ. ಕಮಿಂಗ್ ಟು ದ ಟುಡೇಸ್ ರಿಯಲ್ ಟಾಪಿಕ್ ಇಸ್ ದಟ್ ಲಿಫ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಆಫ್ ಕಾರ್ಪೊರೇಟ್ ವೇಲ್. So, lifting of corporate wealth. Lifting of corporate wealth. Why that particular sentence has been framed? It is for the reason that at any point of time, I just repeated these 13 points. What are the main characteristics of the company? I told you only for that reason, because if at all in any one of the 13 aspect has been disturbed, then there will be a provision for the courts to lift the corporate wealth. That means the corporate entity, the corporate existence of that particular company will be lifted. In a sense, it will be declared like it is not existing at all, like it is the individual persons who are handling the things, and the individual persons only, any mistake is caused, when any violation of any of the provisions, any of the character of the company has been disturbed. In such case, the lifting of corporate wealth, that means the individuals will not be known, of the shareholders of the company or a director of the company will not be known until and unless all the 13 characters have been followed by the company. When it is actually violated by the company, then the court has got the options to lift that company corporate veil and finally declare who are the directors of the company and name the directors of the company. Otherwise, the company is not interested, the general public also will not be interested to know, the government also will not be interested to know who are the directors of the company, and their names will not necessarily be revealed. In the case, if at all the lifting of the corporate veil takes place in two circumstances. First circumstance is because of the judicial interpretation, and the second case is that because of the statutory provisions. So when coming to the judicial interpretation, I would like to tell you there are about 7 points in this. You should bear in mind. You please write down, if at all you have got the pen to jot or pen and paper, you please write down that there are 7 points in the judicial provisions, and the statutory provision also there are about 7 points. So what is judicial provision? Judicial interpretation. Judicial interpretation in the sense, the first point is that determining the character of the company. Determining the character of the company in the sense, we are not going to have a business with the alien enemy, that is against the public policy. So alien enemy, when it takes place, like in the war breaks out and the country declares the other country as a like enemy country, in such case any transaction between both the countries will be stopping. At that moment, if at all any transaction is remaining between the two nations, and we do companies which is existing in a particular nation and the other country is declared enemy country, in such case all such this one lifting of corporate veil will take place, and there will be no company existing in the eyes of law. So there is a very interesting Daimler versus Continental Tire Company is a case law. That is a very, very important case law that all students have to remember this one. Daimler versus Continental Tire Company, where actually the company will be having a shareholding, that the German, that's a British company, whereas the Germans will be having the more shareholding in this particular company. When the Second World War breaks, that England and Germany will be declared as an enemy country, and England will go for the recovery of the dues from Germany. That moment, the German would have declared the company as a enemy, that England as an enemy nation. So the England could not recover the whatever due was from Germany. So this is a very, very important example we have to write for the citation for this particular point. The second one is the protecting the revenue of the government. When a company is framed for only cheating, for only actually doing manipulation, not to pay any taxes or whatever it is, like in such cases, if it is affecting the revenue of the government, such case also the corporate veil will be lifted. So the second one. And the third one is for preventing the fraud or for improper purpose if the company is formed. In the sense, if a company has been formed only to protect the identity of the individuals, in such case also lifting of corporate will take place. So please students, you remember I told you that there are 7 points. Of the 7 points, first one is actually for determining the corporate will be lifted. First one is for determining the character of the company. Second one is for protecting the revenue of the government, and the third one is about the preventing of the fraud. In preventing of the fraud, actually there is one case law, Guilford Motors versus Hans. You can write the example, that's sufficient. Like not necessary to explain in detail, as I mentioned about the Daimler versus Continental company in the first point. So that is the third one, preventing fraud. And the fourth point is where a company is a sham. Company is sham means a cloak company or a hoax company. It's actually a company itself is a hoax. Like it is formulated, it is actually the company is formed only for improper purpose. It is not for any transaction or anything like that. In such cases, the corporate veil will be lifted. Only on the papers the company will be there. It will not be in existence at all. That's called as a sham company. So coming to the fifth one is fifth point for lifting of the corporate veil. I am talking about the judicial interpretations where the lifting of the corporate veil will take place. The fifth one aspect is that when the company is behaving like agent of the other company or a trustee of the other company. If another company is there, the main purpose, one company is acting like agent or a trustee. In such case, also the corporate veil will be lifted. And that is the fifth one. And the sixth one is for preventing the welfare legislation. The government would have formulated certain legislations like for the welfare of the people. If any company is actually disturbing the welfare policies of the government, in such case also the company's corporate veil will be lifted. And the seventh one is for protecting the public policy. There are umpteen number of things. I'll come to about regarding the public policy later. But anyway, to be in short, like if at all, if on moral grounds, where the public morality will be affected. In such case also, the lifting of corporate will be taking place. These are the 7 points regarding the judicial interpretation. When I'm talking about I told you about there are 7 points in judicial interpretation and there are 7 points in the statutory provisions also. So statutory provisions you should bear in mind, dear students. Regarding the statutory provisions, there are something which is mandatory for a company to be in existence. Those are actually regarding the reduction of the number of members. I'll come to the later chapter. That in a private limited company there will be a minimum 2 members, and in the public limited companies there will be minimum 7 members. If at all the members are reduced below 2 or below 7, and the company tries to function more than 6 months, in such case also the corporate veil will be lifted. So because they cannot function below the minimum members, statutory provisions or whatever is there. That is the first point regarding the statutory provision. Then that is covered in the section 45 of the Companies Act. Then coming to the second point regarding the statutory provision, it is about the failure to pay the application money. It is covered in the section 69/5 of the Companies Act, where here suppose some company started and they have called shares, and if there is a provision that 90% of the share have to be collected within 130 days. Suppose 90% of the share application money is not collected within 130 days, they are bound to return all the amount to the concerned applicants. But if at all, if they are not returning the amount within 130 days, and they are trying to run the company, in such case also the corporate veil will be lifted. That is the second point, and that is under section 69/5 of the Companies Act. And coming to the third aspect is the misstatement in the prospectus. Misstatement in the prospectus in the sense, actually when if at all if the company is starting calling shares, it's supposed to actually release on prospectus. That is also a registered document of the company. If at all if they are telling some untrue things in the prospectus, in such case also the corporate veil will be lifted. It is covered in section 62 of the Companies Act. So in the statutory provision there are 3 points. 3 points I told. Like first one is the reduction is the minimum statutory membership, and the second one is regarding the failure to pay the application money, and third one is I told about the misstatement in the prospectus, and the fourth one is regarding the misdescription in the company's name. It is covered in section 147 of the Companies Act. Section 147 of the Companies Act tells that actually when the company is doing has actually registered on some name, all the business transaction has to take place in section in the same name, like in the documents, in the bank accounts, and all the transactions, it has to be in the same name. If at all there is the variation in the name in the transactions or documents or anything like that, in such case also the corporate veil will be lifted. It is covered in section 147. And coming to the fifth point in the statutory provision, it is about the fraudulent conduct of the business. It is covered in section 42 of the Companies Act, where actually when the company is trying to fraudulently conduct the business, in such case also the corporate veil will be lifted. And the sixth one is regarding the directors guilty of violating the statutory provision. If the directors are trying to beyond their powers, if they are trying to actually misuse this one opportunity as the directors, in such case also the statutory corporate veil will be lifted. And the last point in the statutory provision is the holding and subsidiary companies. Always in the companies should be either declared it is a holding company or a statutory subsidiary company in the Companies Act. If at all if they are not actually recognize themselves as a holding or a subsidiary company, and they are just functioning without the knowledge of the government, in such case also the lifting of corporate veil will be taken place. So 7 points are covered in in the lifting of corporate veil. 7 points are covered in the judicial interpretation as well as the statutory provision. ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಬರೆಯುವುದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ನಾನು ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ತೇನೆ. ಅಂದರೆ ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಪೊರೇಟ್